Entering fantasy drafts in the next few weeks here. Here's a few wide receivers I would avoid drafting this season. The first guy, Gabe Davis to the Buffalo Bills. So last season, Gabe Davis, I was big on him having a breakout year after we saw the performances, especially the one in the AFC Championship versus the Kansas City Chiefs a few years ago. But last season, an underwhelming year, 48 catches only, 836 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns. So no doubt about it, he was a deep threat. And he had a couple pop games here and there with Gabe Davis, and the 7 touchdowns definitely saving him, but a lot of inconsistencies, a lot of drop passes as well for Gabe Davis. And that Bill offense pretty much was Stephon Diggs and a lot of Josh Allen running and hitting the tight ends in the end zone. So right now, Gabe Davis, I know his ADP isn't that horrible, 8th and 9th round, but he's not a guy I'm really going to have a lot of value in or interest, obviously, to have in my starting lineup. He's a number 3 receiver in 3 receiver leagues, or even a flex option in some fantasy leagues. As a bench piece, he's fine, but if you're going to go into the season expecting Gabe Davis to do big things in your starting lineup, I just think a lot of inconsistencies. And like I said, over there in Buffalo, now they got Kincaid as well at the tight end position, another playmaker and a big target for Josh Allen, where pretty much the only guy who eats and gets his big numbers in that offense is Stephon Diggs, and everything else, the ball spread out. So right now, Gabe Davis, after a disappointing year, after high expectations for the most part, is a wide receiver I would avoid this season. Next wide receiver is Michael Thomas of the New Orleans Saints. So over the last couple years when I've done these pre-draft videos, he's been on the list each and every time is Michael Thomas. And once again, I'm going to go to the well. I know this is pretty much Michael Thomas's last chance to prove to the Saints in the NFL that he could play and stay healthy, but I can't take a chance on it because over the last 3 or 4 years, that's been the case. I know he had magical record-breaking season with Drew Brees many years ago, and now Derek Carr coming in at quarterback's obviously more stability over there than a Taysom Hill or Jameis Winston over the last few years. But Michael Thomas, I think his best days are behind him. He's up there in age now. And every season it's a toe injury, a knee, or he's just not feeling it and wanting to play. So last season, 16 catches, 171 receiving yards, and 3 touchdowns on 22 targets. So we'll see. I'll be very surprised if Thomas makes at least 10 games this season played. So right now, he's going 9th to the 10th round range in most fantasy drafts. Just like Gabe Davis, even though at least Gabe Davis plays, Michael Thomas, he's a guy, if you're going into the season with expectations to have him in your starting lineup as a number 3 receiver or flex option, that's just not going to be good, I believe, for fantasy owners. So right now, Michael Thomas at best is a bench piece and a guy that if you got to start him, obviously you're going to be desperate at that position, in my opinion. So right now, Michael Thomas, I'm going to let someone else once again draft him, maybe believe they got a steal in a draft, and then week 5 or 6 when he's hurt again here, most likely, or he's just not in the mood to play, whatever the case may be. That receiver, like I said, that you should have avoided all season. Next receiver is Jerry Jeudy of the Denver Broncos. So Jerry Jeudy last season, we saw some good flashes out of him, but another wide receiver who's been banged up and injured on and off throughout his NFL career. So last year, 67 catches, 972 receiving yards, 6 touchdowns on 100 targets. So right now, we'll see if in this Sean Payton offense that this Bronco team could turn things around, because last season I did like that offense going into the year. Obviously, with Russell Wilson leading the pack with a Cortland Sutton and a Jerry Jeudy as a nice 1-2 combo, but it just hasn't come to fruition over there in Denver. It just seems like they're either underperforming or one of these wide receivers always hurt. And right now, Jerry Jeudy, he's going pretty early in fantasy drafts, in my opinion. He's going late 4th, 5th, 6th round, the latest right now. And there's some wide receivers I still rather have than a Jerry Jeudy. A Chris Godwin, Christian Watson, I like his upside better. Michael Pittman, I think, has a bounce back year. Also, DJ Moore, I like better this season. Brandon Ayuk. So just to name a few, I like those players who right now he's going ADP-wise ahead of is Jerry Jeudy. No doubt about it, he's a talented receiver, but with the offensive problems last season, even though it's a new regime and the injury concerns with Jeudy, right now, because of his ADP, he's a wide receiver I look to avoid this season in drafts. The next wide receiver is Kadarius Tony. City Chiefs, Kadarius Tony, another ball player that who knows how much he really wants to play. I know he came up a little bit towards the end of the year for the Chiefs, but it was a train wreck over there with New York the first couple seasons. Then they traded him towards the deadline to the Kansas City Chiefs. And last year with the Chiefs, he didn't do much anyway. 16 catches, 171 receiving yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns and 82 rush yards on 7 carries. with a rushing touchdown. And right now, already here in the early going in training camp here, he's banged up with a knee injury. Had to clean out his Kadarius Tony, even though reports have come out that he's going to be ready for week 1. But right now, over there in training camp, there's some players making some noise over there in Kansas City. Sky Moore, I think it's going to be a good year for him going into his second season in the NFL. You got Rashad Rice, who they drafted in the NFL draft. We hear good things about him. And also Ross as well. So I think those guys, if they're going to keep it going in training camp and staying healthy, there's some Richie James and Justin Watson. So a lot of options over there in Kansas City. If Kadarius Tony can't stay healthy, and it's just always going to be a problem with him. He's not really a player I want to get involved with this season in fantasy drafts. And right now, he's another wide receiver going 8 to the 10th round range. It's Kadarius Tony, but too many injury concerns. And who knows how motivated he is, especially now that they won the Super Bowl last season, is Tony. It just seems like every week something comes up on the injury report. So right now, I would avoid him this season. And the 5th and final wide receiver I look to avoid, Jamison Williams of the Detroit Lions. So a great talent coming out of college a couple seasons ago, but last year with the injury, and now this season with the sports gambling issue here, he's going to miss the first 6 games of the year. He's not a wide receiver I'm going to bother to go out there and get a stash on my roster as Jamison Williams, because right now he's missing the first 6 weeks. The Lions' bye week is in week 9, so you're really only getting him in the first 10 weeks of the season. 3 times Jamison Williams. So right now, like I said, that's pretty much half the season he's going to be missing with the suspension and the bye week. And by the time he gets his legs under him and back into the playbook of things here, he's not really a wide receiver I'm going to want to bother with on my fantasy roster. No doubt about it, the upside is there for Jamison Williams. But this Lion team, we know they have a lot of wide receivers. And we know the ball spreads out as well with Jared Goff all over the football field. So right now, while he's suspended, and like I said, you're only going to get 3 games out of him in the first 10 weeks of the season. He is Jamison Williams. And he's got to get up to snuff with the playbook and in obviously football shape. He's not a wide receiver I'm going to waste a draft pick on. So that's a few wide receivers I look to avoid to draft on draft day, entering the 2023 fantasy football season.